Nigeria's energy policy prioritizes rapid integration of solar power, says Muhammadu Buhari. IMF pegs capital outflows from Nigeria, other emerging economies, at $50 billion. SEC warns investors against illegal crowdfunding platforms. Disconnecting customers' electricity supply without 10-day notice unlawful, says FCCPC. Plus, Taiwan stocks shake off China's military drills to rise 2%. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. It's good to be here, and it's time to talk business. We start by telling you that President Muhammadu Buhari says the rapid integration of solar power into country's energy mix will lead to energy sufficiency. The president stated this when he received a delegation of Sun Africa LLC USA at the presidential villa, Abuja. According to him, the federal government has embarked on several reforms aimed at revitalizing Nigeria's energy sector, aimed at improving energy access to communities across the country. He commended the interest of the United States developer to invest in Nigeria's power sector, pledging that the federal government would remain committed to collaborating with the private sector in improving energy access, creating jobs, and industrial development. The president highlighted some of the reforms embarked upon by this administration to address Nigeria's energy needs.
Initiatives like these will go a long way in developing local capacity through technology transfer and relieving transmission constraints through the generation and the distribution of electricity in the local distribution companies' franchise area, making offtake easier. Please to note the technology transfer content embedded in this initiative, as well as the employment generation potentials.
The Commission is very keen to engage with Nigeria. It's a giant of Africa. It is a natural ally for the United States under the PGII platform. There's $600 billion available in total. So you can imagine what is available for Nigeria moving forward.
Nigeria needs this. U.S. also was absent from energy markets in Africa for many years. This is no longer the case. We come as the partners, not to sell any technology, but to partner with, first of all, Niger Delta Power Holding Corporation, to work hand in hand and create something that is immediately needed for Nigeria.
The solar solutions they are proposing shall be utility scale. This means that it can be integrated to the grid, which will add to our base load. I hope this will result in a more resilient power sector providing energy security.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, is setting the pace for its African counterparts through its innovation in revenue generation and taxation on digital economy. This is during the visit of delegates of the Tanzanian Federal Inland Revenue Authority on study tour to Abuja.
For the knowledge and information which give us a way in our journey of taxation of non-resident company. We would like to declare that our expectation were 100% met.
The Nigerian tax system, which is based on tripod, just like other tax systems of tax policy, legislation, and tax administration, you will be able to compare notes what you have seen here and what you have at home. We are working seriously on the automation of the VAT administration.
The federal government spent an estimated 4.2 trillion naira on debt servicing in 2021 alone. And despite the increase in VAT as a value-added tax rate from 5% to 7.5%, debt servicing obligation continue to trend upwards. Given continuous borrowings by the federal government to fund its budget deficit, what is the impact of this on the Nigerian economy? To speak on this is a senior economist with SPM Professionals. He is no other person but Paul Alaje. He joins us from Port Harcourt to discuss these issues. Paul Alaje, you're welcome to Business Express. Hello, Mr. Paul. Okay, before Mr. Paul gets to join this...
Thank you so very much for having me.
Okay, good. Before we continue the conversation, here is an excerpt from the Director General of the Debt Management Office.
Why is the debt stock growing? You can see it from the presentations that we've been having for several years. When the budget is drawn up, it is drawn up from the budget. There's revenue, there's expenditure, then there's a gap that is funded by borrowing. It doesn't just happen, accidentally or without any approvals. That's one. But having said that, what are we even doing to ensure that even if we have to borrow, the debt service cost can be moderated? Over 60% of our external debt is actually from concessional sources. So we're talking of costs below that are at most 3% and are spread out over a long period. If we didn't have those strategies in place, the debt service will actually be higher. Okay, so there's a lot going in terms of managing the debt service, managing the debt stock also in composition. So while people talk about debt stock is growing, a lot of it is actually long-term, both the external and the domestic, and they are not all due now. We would like to see more revenue so that the debt service to revenue ratio is high.
Well, Mr. Paul Alaje?
Yeah, I'm with you, sir.
Okay, good. Well, like we heard from the debt management office, a lot of our debts are coming from concessional sources. Government is doing much to manage this debt stuff. What do you make of this latest figure as government is spending almost all of what it had generated servicing and debt vis-a-vis the response we had from the DG Debt Management Office?
Well, first of all, we need to balance the argument. It is true that most of the borrowing are confessional in nature. Apart from this, we also understand that it is very difficult for the Nigerian government to agree without borrowing. But we need to balance that argument with the fact that what has government done regarding generating revenue? I heard from your introduction when you said government has increased VAT. VAT is not as beneficial to state as it will be to federal government. But VAT is good news for state and local government more than federal government. I think across board, all government needs to become more innovative outside the regular paying system of company income tax. There are charges and indeed more revenue that should go to the covers of state government and federal government this moment today.
Okay, then, what is the implication of this on the country's treasury?
Well, IMF had warned Nigeria earlier that by 2026, what will be spending to service debt will be more than revenue. And I may say that 2026 may be a long time from now. What we are already seeing is that fourth quarter 2022, federal government of Nigeria, according to the Ministry of Finance, from the report, indicated that we spent more than what we earned. Well, the full year report may be different. But the concern is that what is the implication? The implication is that funds that would have been used for development of the country to even take care of some overhead are not being used to service them. And by the way, they are not funds that we use to retire. We are talking of funds that we use to service them, which means the burden is huge, the burden is much on our country. How do we survive? We still have to go to debt management office. Well, when debt management office is helping us out, this help should not be it should not be a permanent solution. Nigeria needs to become more innovative, and starting with NNPC. As I speak to you today, NNPC is remitting virtually nothing to the federal government. So if that is the case, how are we going to say the crude oil that we extract from Niger Delta is beneficial to anybody at all? Because
okay,
the fact is not
Mr. Alaja,
to let the federal government having its own portion.
Okay, then talking about debt to revenue ratio. Yes, you mentioned the NNPC. The NNPC used to be the main source of revenue for the federal government. Then came COVID-19, came oil prices nose diving in revenue generator for the federal government. Now that the NNPC is being privatized, now that it is no longer business as usual, don't you see it augment?
I think it just the FRA for litigation and different states IRA. Kudos to them. But for me, I could see that it will be too quick to judge what NNPC is. But from my understanding, we have changed names, we have changed nomenclature, we have also changed style. The individual NNPC remains the same. The organization of a public sector, I don't know if that can be wiped away overnight. But legally speaking, the people have changed from government owned to a private limited liability company owned by federal government. Who will be people to run it? Will they be people with expertise in running private organization, and we see people who have mentality of government property? The sort of government property, I doubt if that we have so much, but it will be too much in our age to start thinking of what we have. The president has placed
on a positive side and expect results to begin to churn, whether in a short time or in a long time. What would you say about government expenditure? How should we go about it following linear resources?
Well, and when you look at government spending, you talk of the spending on government functionaries is quite high, even though some persons in the Senate will tell me what goes to them is more compared to overall expenditure. They agree, but every single percentage of spending matters to Nigeria right now. Right now, Nigeria is having so much issue with revenue, but we are not managing our expenditure well. If we keep telling in the bottom line, we are public investment, we are talking of government infrastructure, we are talking of assets that can bring about development of our country. So if you look at the budget today and you see the pattern of spending of government, and you know that we still have a long way to go. Spending just because we need to spend, or spending because it's traditionally so, is what I think we need to change this moment to be as a country. I think we are not managing our expenditure well enough the way we should at all.
Then how can we perform this switch from spending for much more on the recurrent to some capital expenditure, more so that we're talking about infrastructure that will have direct bearing on helping businesses grow as well as the social security for citizens?
As I talk to you, one of the most critical sectors is the education sector. Unfortunately, federal government and ASA have not been able to resolve. It's costing all of us, even though many of us are not in school, but they don't be in government school. But the truth is that for those who claim they have created job or created businesses, their potential labor force is what is on strike, while others are learning. And the rest of the world is not waiting for us. These are together part of our labor force population in future that is locked at home and not able to add value to their brain or at the community. So for me, I think government needs to prioritize what is important. Why should we spend XYZ on some on seats? Again, when you look at government and so forth that we have, we also want to ask questions that is it impacting the economy enough? Right now, we need everything that we make the impact of government spending to show. And it is in that regard government spend. Security, how much are we spending? And from what we have spent, have we derived results? I think government needs to have a matrix of what is spent, on what purpose have we achieved results. And the result, all spending must be result oriented. We are paying salaries to people because they have added value to us. We are not paying salaries just because they are shown up. The same thing must be with government function. This is not the time we spend until let us create a kitchen expenses, or let us create SUV for senators, or let us even support another country as the case may be. This is the time where we look at critical sector in our economy, from education to health to infrastructure to rail, and the most important thing, security. You see, when you talk about economy and security, they are not just complements, they are perfect complements. It's like having a pair of socks. You cannot wear one and leave the other. It's like having two cycles in a bicycle. You cannot ride while the other rim is missing. So economy and security, they are perfect complements. For A to work, there must be B. For B to work, there must be A. So government, when they start prioritizing things or spending, then we take the ones that are most important and urgent for us, and we can start deploying our funds in that regard immediately.
Thank you so very much. I will so wish that the efforts being made yield immediate results. Thank you so very much for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular point in time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And moving on, the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, EBID, has officially released the 2022 edition of the West Africa Development Outlook, which takes stock of socio-economic development of the previous year and presents a macroeconomic outlook for the year 2022. The president and chairman of the board of directors of EBID, Judge Danko, emphasized the importance of the review of key economic indicators as a way of highlighting the impact of recent global events on ECOWAS economies and postulating mitigating actions for policymakers' consideration. Director of the Research and Strategic Planning of the bank, McDonald Saye, says the community faces challenging macroeconomic environment as a result of which growth prospects have been downgraded. The elevated food and energy prices pose a great risk to fiscal consolidation and debt sustainability, while threatening to increase current account deficits and exerting pressure on the local currencies, stressing that there is the need for fiscal and monetary policy synchronicity to successfully navigate these challenges. How much is the Naira exchanging for other currencies? Let's find out. And taking a look at the energy market, oil prices rose on Friday, bouncing off their lowest levels since February in the previous session as supply shortage concerns were enough to cancel out fears of slackening fuel demand. Brent crude rose 55 cents to $94.64 a barrel, while the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was up 65 cents at $89.19 a barrel. Oil prices have come under pressure this week as the market fretted over the impact of inflation on economic growth and demand, but signs of tight supply kept a floor under prices. And now, global food price index has dropped by 8.6% in the month of July, the biggest price fall in over 3 years. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO) said the price index dropped to 140.9 in July, led by a significant decrease in prices of cereal and vegetable oil. The index measures monthly changes in international prices of 5 major food community groups. These are cereal, meat, dairy products, vegetable oils, and sugar. Let's now take a trip to the commodities market. $50,722.33 basis points, and the market capitalization also increased to 27.358 trillion naira, 4,091 deals. Then investors on the floor of the exchange had Honey, Flour, Guarantee Trust and Company, as well as FBNAH trade higher Friday. Nekaoko has details of that on the global market.
Markets have endured a cautious week as investors reacted to Wall Street looks to eke out modest gains for the week. Futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average were up 0.08%, while S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 futures fell slightly. This waited for U.S. jobs data due later in the session, with London's FTSE shedding. Asian markets finished broad 7%. The Shanghai Composite gained 1.19% and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index rose 0.14%. In Africa, South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 advanced in early trade, despite the Reserve Bank's report that the country's net reserves dipped to $53.7 billion in July from $53.8 billion in June. Meanwhile, other stocks in the region wrapped up the week in mixed territory.
On Monday at 3 p.m.